Hi everybody and welcome to Sing TV. My name is Sherry Kennedy and you're in my studio today, and I'm very happy to introduce this next guest that I have, who's going to help you with a lot of your legal questions, and it's all for free. So stay tuned and listen to Wayne Logan coming up. I'm so excited to introduce you to Wayne Logan. I have been a client of his for many years, and he is an entertainment lawyer with Miller Thompson Law. So stay with us because you're going to learn so much about what your legal rights are and what you should be doing for your own musical career.
Well, I'm really happy here, Sherry, and nice to be speaking with you. You're one of my favorite clients, and it's been a good adventure for us.
Hi, Wayne, and welcome to Sing TV. I know I'm really excited that you're here and you're going to give us a bunch of information. It's so good to chat with you. And Wayne, my first question to you is, how in the world did you ever decide to get into entertainment law? What was that pivotal moment for you?
I love that question because I was born to be a musician. And that very quick story here is my dad was a champion fiddler, and he was in World War II in London, England, and because of his fiddle ability, he was held back. Instead of going to the front lines, he was held back to entertain the troops. And he was there for 5 years. And when he came home, he had kids. He went, "You're going to be a musician in case there's another war." And so in the 60s and 70s, my sister and I were encouraged to go and do musician. And of course, the Beatles came out. And when I went to decided to go to law school, it was natural to capitalize on my network, which of course is musicians.
So Wayne, can you tell me, what is an entertainment lawyer? Who do you represent? Do you just represent the famous people, or do you represent up-and-comers?
Well, first of all, I'm an entertaining lawyer. And entertainment law is helping clients out with their contracts, career planning. I find a lot of it's career planning. I've been doing this for 35 years now here in Calgary. And I think one of the significant accomplishments is I'm the lawyer for the Canadian Country Music Association. And so I have a very broad clientele, both those that are stars like Brett Kissel. I do a little bit of work with Lindsay Ell, but do a whole bunch of work with mid-market, let's say, country musicians. And a member of the Alberta Country Music Association, Country Music Alberta now. And so my practice is very much Western Canada and predominantly country. But our biggest all-star client is Kaisa, and you remember her major hit that was one of the biggest hits in the world, Hideaway. And we're doing a variety of work with her right now, and she just released a brand new video this week. So I really learn a lot from all of my clients, and then I'm very fortunate. I love what I do.
Do you just see established entertainers, artists, performers, or do you welcome up-and-coming singers?
All the time. It's typically a one-off, Sherry, initially, in the sense of giving them some advice. And I will volunteer for that when I can, because it's very important to me to support the music business. It's really important to me. And so I will volunteer wherever I can, time permitting, to give up-and-coming musicians direction.
What should people do? Like, say if it's their first time going to an entertainment lawyer or an entertaining lawyer, what should they do to prepare, and what should they expect to pay?
Well, like I say, I volunteer as much as I can. Awesome. And if it is a paying situation, I will flat fee that, typically at $300-400, because my hourly rate is outrageously high at $750 an hour. So I have to work very hard to keep my costs down and keep myself affordable.
So Wayne, what advice would you give to new singers and their parents perhaps on how to invest their money in their career, or perhaps how to avoid misspending that investment?
It varies. It's all about songwriting. Is where I try and get young musicians rolling. Here's what I typically find, Sherry, is that young person, and I'm talking 14, 15, 16, 17, maybe 18 years old, come in with their family, mom and dad, and of course, nobody's willing to tell them that they need to work harder. And so often in the family's eyes, that young person is an up and coming superstar. And it's not up to me to say that I think you don't have any talent, but I reinforce how important songwriting is. And the big thing is, excuse me, is most often the parents come in with a young person, and they've recorded a CD. And I understand why they want to do that, but typically parents will have maybe $20,000-$25,000 to support their career of the young person. And in my opinion, they have misspent their money, because what are you going to do with that CD? Oh, we're going to release it to radio. Oh, really? Are you going on tour to support it? No, we don't have a band. So why are you releasing it to radio? And I think the investment that parents could offer their young person is more networking, like become a member of the Canadian Music Association, or if you're country and crossover, Canadian Country Music Association or Country Music Alberta. It's a family. People want to help you. So it's about networking, learning, co-writing, and getting into and building relationships. The 20 grand that's spent over a couple of years, in my opinion, is much better spent that way than going and recording a CD. Because if you release, the reality is, if you release a CD to radio and you're not doing anything to support it, you're going backwards. Because will the radio stations listen to it? Absolutely. But you're not there to support it. You can maybe do a telephone interview or something, but you're not going through to support it. There's no concert going on or performance in the local city. And then when you do get some better songs, and down the road, you've gone backwards because you've already sort of used up your ability to get their attention. So anyways, that's one of the biggest things that I find as an entertaining lawyer, is misspending the money that is available.
What is your advice, Wayne, for up and coming songwriters and people who want to get into the music industry? Do you have any little tidbits that you can share with us?
Well, that's the biggest one right there, that people have to be really, really careful with. So first of all, it's all about songwriting. What's the difference between a good songwriter and a bad songwriter? 500 songs. You got to work at it. You got to co-write to get better at it. But here's the problem. It's bands will often jam a song, right? So you got the drummer, the guitar player, the keyboard player, the singer, and they'll jam a song, and they don't really have any intent on what the ownership is. Or if you and I, Sherry, were writing a song, if we're stupid, we don't agree on what that percentage of ownership is. And if that song has any success at all, we're fighting, because I will say, well, that's 80% mine, and you'll say it's 80% yours. So let me tell you, let me recite the summary of an actual case on co-authoring and the danger of it. And it's called the Sarah McLachlan case. And of course, we all know who she is. So in about the mid-90s, Sarah McLachlan was recording one of her, I think it was called Love. I'm not 100% sure, but was recording one of her albums. And she walked into a jam session with it not clear on the ownership, and had the basic of the melody line, had the chord structure, had it figured out, verse, chorus, bridge, etc., and the melody. And Dave, guitar player from the Odds, fantastic band, they're still playing, contributed to that song. He said, well, here, let's let's add this, let's change this chord here to a minor or whatever, diminished chord, augmented, what have you. Let's add, oh, and here's a bridge that I'd like to add in. I sort of had this lick in my repertoire, and let's put in this 8-bar bridge right here in this song and change some of the lyrics. And of course, that song went on to become a major hit. And Sarah McLachlan had registered 100% ownership of the song in her own name. Dave sued for co-ownership. He lost. Sarah McLachlan, the judge went, basically, even though the contributions of Dave were substantial, there was no agreement, no intent form, nor written agreement on what the co-ownership was. Therefore, 100% Sarah McLachlan. Now, the lesson learned is keep your band together. And if you're co-writing, excuse me, have an agreement. Let's assume that you and I are writing, Sherry. Here's the agreement. I'm going to recite it what it is. It is this simple. We, Wayne Logan and Sherry Kennedy, agree to write a song, agree that the ownership of the song entitled whatever it is 50-50. And we sign it and date it. Good paper makes good friends. If you go down to Nashville, you'll find that they will, one of the first things they'll do is get that in writing as to what your co-writing percentage is. And it's not an exact science. It could be 38 and 64 or whatever. So that's a very, very important component on co-authoring.
So now I have some questions. I want to ask you about copyright. Do you copyright, like, is it the whole song? Is it just the lyrics? How does that work? Can you give us some information on what we should expect as far as that goes?
So first of all, you would file with SOCAN and whatever your percentage interest is. That's very, very important. That's the one that, that's where the money comes from the composers. So there's 2 copyrights in every song. One is in the composition. That's what you register with SOCAN. And then the other copyright is in the master recording. And they're 2 distinct copyrights. You could, you and I could own the copyright in both of those. But lots of times if we got a label behind us, they will own the master with an obligation to pay us. So there's 2 copyrights. So I think this is important for your listeners to understand. When does ownership in a song occur? When it's substantially completed. Make a note of that. Write that down. Don't overwrite that file, because that's when your rights start. Of course, you work on version 2, version 3, version 4. But I've had it, a lot of clients come in, not necessarily in the music industry, but come in and say, my work's been infringed, maybe my software or my artwork or my book or whatever. And the first question I ask them is, when did you create it? I don't know. They don't know. So here they are putting their time into, let's assume, creating a catalog of songs, and they're not sure when they created it. Listeners, you have to make a note of that. That's when your rights start. If there's ever an issue with your co-writer or with an active infringement, that's what people like myself want to know, and typically they don't. So don't overwrite that first recording. So, and here's another important thing about copyright. So it's the date of creation. The second one is it has to be captured. The first person to capture it is the owner. So let's assume that I was to sing or whistle or play a really, really unique original lick here. And let's assume that Sherry recorded that first. Who's the owner? She is, because I didn't capture it first. So you want to capture your song first, just sing it into a tape machine or whatever you got, write down the lyrics and date it. And that then is your evidence of capture. And it's extremely important. And so capture it first. And then of course, now if you're working with other people, they are contributing to that song, and then ownership is pretty straightened away. So that's extremely important. And that would apply to your artwork as well, or your logo. Capture your logo first. If I was to walk into a design firm and say, here's my logo that I would like you to create, and I say, you know, a couple of circles, a gopher, what have you, and they capture first, they're the owner, not me. If I walk in with a drawing on a piece of paper and give it to them, they are then creating an edited version. It's extremely important.
Years ago, when I first started songwriting, I was advised to send a registered mail copy of the song to myself. Does that still hold true today, or what do you think about that?
Well, that's a really good point, Sherry. You could still do that, but your copyright occurs upon your date of completion. You do not, and that's it. So it's your own file. You don't need to mail it to yourself anymore. What that did, that was evidence of the date of creation, is what that envelope did, right? But you don't need to do that. Should you file copyright at Canadian Intellectual Property Office? The answer is yes. If you have I wouldn't do it for every song, but for the songs that you have pretty solid faith in, I would file it. Don't hire lawyers. It costs $50. You can do it yourself. You do not send in a copy of the work. It's your own file, again, is the evidence of what your copyright certificate applies for. So you fill out the form that's easily available. Just Google Canadian copyright application, open up a file with them, the government, and it costs you $50. You fill out the form and you'll get a certificate of registration in about 10 days. And then you can include that registration number in your liner notes or on your website. And that then is proof of that asset being owned. It's important.
So somebody says, I'm going to make you a star, kid. Stick with me. And it's either an agent or a manager. How do you react to that? Do lawyers act as managers? What is your feeling about taking on an agent, taking on a manager, and that whole process?
First of all, I don't think a lawyer takes the place of an agent or manager. I think it's all, the answer depends on the status of that person. One of the things that I am pretty fussy about, not fussy, have a strong opinion on, is management. God darn it. So many management musicians feel they need a management and they don't. It's all about ego. Oh, I got a manager. Great. But those contracts are long. They got sunset clauses. And you got to be very, very careful with it. So musicians, you have to manage yourself. You got to learn the business of music. If you don't understand the business of music and how revenue streams work, you're not a professional. There's two types of musicians. One's a hobby and one's a professional. Professional musician, people can, like myself, can help. Hobby, it's a different ball game. And you have to direct the manager, not the other way around. It's different when you're the level of a Kaisa or a Brett Kissel, but that takes a lot of time. So do take it very, very seriously on whether you sign up with a manager or not. Agent, obviously, that's your booking. But you have to learn the music business. So HypeBot is a website that you want to load. It's a free service that comes in every day. I review it every day. It's HYPEBOT. And it is, that's where you would find the source for the great books that you would want to read on the business of music. It's got marketing ideas. It tells you how to register with Sound Exchange and on and on and on. So it's an extremely important website. It's free. And I strongly recommend. I review it every day and I learn something. How to build your catalog so that you maximize your Sound Exchange revenue. And that's the other thing. Like we used to call it distribution in the music world. It's now administration. You got to get. It's very complicated. I would not try and do it myself if I was still a musician. You need an expert that tracks your neighboring rights. Tracks your publishing rights, because it's all online now. And so that's all automated. And you find somebody like CD Baby or TuneCorp, and they're affordable, and they will do the tracking for you. We have clients that are making $150,000, $180,000 a year through Sound Exchange.
You've talked about the business of music and what exactly is the business of music, and how should they take hold of the business of music?
We work hard to educate the musician. So let's assume we're going through a recording agreement. Again, I encourage the musician to understand it themselves. So that first meeting, well, maybe not the first meeting, but when it comes time to review a recording agreement or master recording agreement or something, we'll take the time to explain it so that the musician understands it. One of the things that I see here can really a lot, Sherry, is musicians will say, I just want to write my music. I don't care about the business of law, and I'll just let them manage me. I am honestly on the floor in hysterics because that is the absolute wrong approach. I want to be a lawyer. So do I research law? Of course, but I got to do marketing. I got to do admin. I got to do it all as a business person. The musician has to do it all. You cannot rely upon other people to understand. You have to know.
Again, Wayne, it's just been such a pleasure to have you on Sing TV and share your incredible knowledge on the music business and what we as singers, songwriters, and musicians need to know about the business of music. To summarize, can you give us a little summary of what you would suggest for all of us to learn?
Write songs. Write songs. Write songs. Network. Get to Nashville, because it's not just country music. There's a incredibly strong Canadian contingent there. Understand the business of music, and Factor is live and well in Canada. There's grants available to get you to for management. There's grants available to travel to Nashville. It's writing songs. Join the Alberta Music Industry Association. They're fantastic. They'll have songwriting clinics. They'll have management clinics. I go and present every couple of years. So it's about networking, and it's about being a professional, which is working at it and do everything you can. Ralph Murphy, probably Canada's most famous songwriter. He's unfortunately passed away last year. He wrote a book on songwriting, and it's a Bible. Check that out. I can't remember the title right now, but Ralph Murphy, he has the most incredible book on songwriting, and it'll work for you. He has a process that you can follow to get your songwriting better.
Once again, I am so grateful that you decided to come on and share your knowledge with us on Sing TV. Thank you, Wayne Logan. If any of you want to get in touch with Wayne, here is the particulars. Give him a call or give the office a call and set up your appointment to chat with Wayne. I know he will help you a great deal.
Well, good, Sherry. I hope we can do this again sometime.
For more information, go to my website, which is at the bottom of the screen here. And yeah, send me your videos, send me your questions. I love to help people in the business or who want to be in the business. So yes, contact me.